the last couple of years, we've gotten a new movie in both the Alien and the Predator franchise, and that calls to mind the age-old question, which franchise is better, Alien or Predator? We're gonna answer that question today with a tier ranking. As we get started, I'm doing this tier ranking along with my good buddy Cody Leach. He did his own tier ranking of the Alien and Predator movies together. In fact, he created the tier maker template that I will be using for this. And if you want to create your own Alien vs. Predator tier list, you can use the link down below. If you want to screenshot that, post it on your Instagram stories, tag me. I will share some of your rankings. As we go into this, this video is designed to be my fun, quick discussion of the Alien and Predator movies. If you want my more in-depth discussion of the Alien films, check out my main Alien ranking. I did this huge deep dive. It has all these interviews. Like, that is film critic Sean talking about the Alien movies. This is the more fun influencer Sean in this video. Let's get started. We're going through these chronologically, so kicking things off with the original Alien. Let's not beat around the bush here. Of course, this is a perfect organism. This one goes up in that top S tier, and this is just a fantastic example of atmospheric horror. It's this slow burn where you build out this world that you want to explore, filled with mysteries, characters that feel believable, environments that feel like an actual reality that could exist in the future. And it's a great example of how collaborative filmmaking is, where it started with this idea from Dan O'Bannon, who built out kind of this script that's just a straightforward, simple, fun horror movie in space premise. He worked on Jodorowsky's Dune for a little bit, was introduced to H.R. Geiger, which ended up giving us the xenomorph design, and then Walter Hill and David Giler take a run at it, and they add kind of the subtext about social class and sexism into the film, just adding more layers into it. And then, of course, Ridley Scott comes in, elevates the entire thing, and you end up with this movie that is aged fantastic, created this world that we're still obsessed with, still debating, and which still is so incredibly effective at this outer space haunted house movie that just keeps you on the edge of your seat. 7 years later, we get Aliens, and I'm gonna say James Cameron does the impossible and builds on top of perfection. This one also goes in the perfect organism category, even inching out the original Alien. For me, the original laid this fantastic foundation, and James Cameron was just able to build on top of it with richer characters, a more involved plot, its own ideas that it was exploring. You kind of give Ripley this maternal motivation by throwing Newt into the mix, and it's just a more human, it's a deeper emotional connection when someone is trying to save someone else rather than just trying to survive. And just in general, I like action, I like explosions. There are more explosions, there are more aliens, there are a lot more bullets fired in this movie. So for me, it even inches out the original one. Also has a fantastic James Horner score, and James Horner is my second favorite film composer of all time, and this is one of his classic iconic scores. And then 1 year later, we get Predator, and what a run of movies. This one also is a perfect organism. This is a fantastic trio of sci-fi, horror, action films, each with their own flavor, each with their own vibe. But when it comes to Predator specifically, I think the most impressive thing about this movie for me is that, of course, this is a classic Arnold Schwarzenegger film, but I don't think of this as an Arnold movie. Every other Arnold movie, even the Terminator films, I think of as Arnold films. But with Predator, the fact that it's a Predator film is that much more important to the film, where Arnold serves the film rather than just being so much the face of the film. The Predator is able to outshine Arnold, even though it is kind of one of Arnold's absolute best roles as Dutch. Then you get into the movie itself, just such a great job of starting off as kind of like a straightforward 80s action movie about these soldiers going in on a mission. They're the best at what they do. It establishes they can take out all these drug lords, don't lose a single person, they're quipping, nothing phases them, not even getting shot. And then for the rest of the movie, they're slowly unwound. They start to fall apart as they find a foe that they can't discover its weakness. They can't find its vulnerability. All of their muscle, all their might, all their wit fails them until Dutch is by himself and just stumbles upon something, his observational skills, and he's able to survive by the end. This, for me, is like the first time when I first watched this movie years back, late at night on cable after my parents had gone to bed. This is the first time I watched a movie and just got just so wound up. I was on the edge of my seat. The movie ended and I was like, even though I was a little bit too old, I was like, I gotta go cuddle with my mom. I went to go cuddle with my mom because freaked out by this movie I watched late at night. It's still so effective. And right along with the Xenomorph, this is the other top alien design of all time. And the funny one is that it wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to be this cricket-looking thing played by Van Damme.
I'm sexy and I know it.
And luckily, through reshoots, they fixed it. And you get this fantastic design of the Predators and another perfect sci-fi action movie. Unfortunately, from here on out, it only goes downhill. A few years later, we get Predator 2. Now, I've never been a big Predator 2 person. I enjoy the film. I like that you're getting Danny Glover in there. It radically changes up the formula. Of course, we go from the jungle to the concrete jungle of LA. And so it doesn't really feel like a rehash. There's plenty of solid little classic lines, especially Gary Busey. And then likewise, memorable bits, in particular, the little teases at the end of the film. But whenever I've been in a Predator mood, this isn't the one that I gravitated towards. And maybe I think if I were to try and capture a little bit in words, especially rewatching it for this channel, trying to evaluate it, I think it just feels too much like a late 80s, early 90s cop thriller with a Predator squished into it. Just even with, the producers that made the film, the cast of the film, a good percentage of them are from Lethal Weapon. Even the stuntmen, you see them, and I just think of all of the other action movies that they're in. And so, whereas the original Predator just kind of stands as it's like its own Predator thing, it pops as that. This feels like these other movies with a Predator put into it. And I don't know, it just doesn't work nearly as well for me on that reason. But I still enjoy it. It's still good. Cody made this tier maker. I don't know exactly what his definition of his terms were on here. When I say, can I dream? I say that these are good movies. Maybe not as good as they could have been, but these are good movies that you can dream of a slightly better version of it. So distinctly, this one goes in the middle good tier, can I dream? Then we get Alien 3. We are only a couple movies removed from a perfect trio of sci-fi horror action films, and you get Alien 3, the movie that I hate the most out of all movies created. Of course, this one goes in the one ugly MFer category.
My first movie, it's fairly well known, was a disaster.
Now, to be perfectly clear, I don't think this is the worst movie ever made. There are good things in this movie. It creates a mood that actually sticks with you. You feel the emotion you're supposed to feel, absolute despair and hopelessness watching this movie. Sigourney Weaver is fantastic. David Fincher knows how to shoot things, how to move the camera. The score, quite evocative, but this is a movie where literally they shot it without a script. And then they ran out of script, so they stopped shooting, edited what they had, came back, tried to fix it. And so there's they were mashing together several ideas about this wooden monk planet, and then it became a prison colony. And it's just all over the place. And the one thing that they did have written, the one thing they locked in, you know what we definitely got to do? Let's kill Newt and Hicks off screen between movies. To me, that's the ultimate example of audience betrayal. The previous movie ends with, can I dream, this hopeful note of victory, and before the next movie starts, just kidding, in their sleep, right after, while she's dreaming, life turns into a nightmare and she's killed, dies. Ugh. I hate that kind of thing. You undid this great victory, you killed off Newt and Hicks. Why? To make a movie where you didn't even have a complete script, where your director hated the producers and the executives, where you just had this dull slog of a story about prisoners that are all just cannon fodder for the xenomorphs, and it's just depressing and unpleasant, but the music's kind of good and there's some cool looking shots. And that mess was followed up with Alien Resurrection, a bizarre alien film where they got Joss Whedon. Now, we now think of Joss Whedon as the Avengers guy with the quippy dialogue. In the mid-90s, he was the guy that wrote the quippy dialogue for Speed and did a rewrite on Toy Story. So Speed, Toy Story, and they went, let's get that guy to write the new Alien movie. So he does, and it's a quippy, kind of wink at the camera script that apparently everybody thought was great. And then they gave this Joss Whedon very American nerdy humor script to a French director where English was not his first language, and the movie is inconsistent on a tonal level as you'd expect from that mess. There's some great sequences in here, in particular the swimming with the xenomorphs one, but otherwise the film just feels out of place with the franchise, where especially as you move into the end of it, just goes off the rails, where Ripley's cuddling with the xenomorph, and then you get the hybrid, a very sympathetic, sad-looking xenomorph. You feel bad for it as it dies a horrible death. But yeah, a movie that's all over the place on so many different levels, but still kind of fun because it is quippy, it's energetic, it has a lot of action, it has lively actors in it. Doesn't go in that bottom category, it doesn't really work, so it's going to go game over, man. Not so good, but some redeeming qualities. That'll bring us to the 21st century with Alien vs. Predator. And on this one, I'm going with a hot take. I'm putting it in the Can I Dream category ahead of Predator 2. I know this is blasphemy for many of you.
For the sake of the series, and also because I heard they were going to do Alien versus Predator or something that I thought was just sounded awful, I wanted out.
Maybe it's nostalgia bias. I don't think it was my first Alien movie to see in the theater, because I'm pretty sure I saw Alien Resurrection in the theater, but it was definitely my first Predator movie that I saw in the theater, and just I have fond memories of that time period going to the movies. For me, I just watched this as big budget fan fiction. That it's an inherently silly concept, mash your toys together, build out this weird mythology. I've never really considered it canon or part of the lore. It's its own little pocket thing where they start playing around with the pyramids, and we go to Antarctica. It's silly, and that's kind of why I like it. There's no pretense, anything like that. We're just going to find an excuse to kill these characters, have this lady team up with a predator, and he's giving her a weapon and marks her up, and it's cheesy, it's campy, it's goofy, but that's kind of what I want from my fan fiction, and this is big budget fan fiction, so it works well enough for me, and I'm just more inclined to rewatch Alien vs. Predator, maybe for the pure schlock value, than I am to watch Predator 2, whereas with that film, I'd rather watch just any number of other 80s, 90s cop action thrillers, or the original Predator. This one provides a distinct value in, the cheese of it all. But the schlocky fun did not last. That'll bring us to Aliens vs. Predator Requiem. And while the novelty of bashing my toys together was fun for the first movie, I did not have and do not have any fun with the second movie. This is one ugly MRFer. Goes at the very back of the list, where this feels so out of step with either one of these franchises. Tonally, character-wise, characterizations, the dialogue, the plot, all of it feels just like a goofy, schlocky, cheap, generic slasher film, horror film from that era, where you're following the pizza delivery guy, there's the guy that came back to town with a mysterious past, there's the well-intentioned cop. They're just characters pulled out of the most generic horror movies. You don't care about any of them, and none of them are interesting to battle a xenomorph or a predator. When you talk about the Alien vs. Predator action, the movie is so dark and dimly lit, you can't see what's happening. There's no geography, so even on the mash your toys together, fun watching the chaos, it's not fun because you can't see what's happening. You don't care about the characters, and for a movie that can be very corny, goofy, and has just silly stuff in it, it also is really dark and killing a kid with a face hugger at the beginning and killing a woman in labor and having a xenomorph walk into a room full of newborn babies. Just stuff like that's just off-putting. That it's a horror movie, but there's a point in time where it's just in bad taste. So I don't care about the characters. I can't see what's happening anyway, and it puts a bad taste in my mouth. That'll bring us back to the mainline franchises with Predators. And this is a movie I've never really understood why it's not better regarded by more of the fandom. Now, it's safe, and it can feel like a bit of a rehash because we're back in the jungle with a bunch of dangerous killers. But I think it delivers what I want from a Predator movie. And they have a really great cast of actors here. We have like Walton Goggins, Danny Trejo, Mahershala Ali, and then like even using Topher Grace, who feels way out of place in this group, but that plays into his character, the twist and everything that they do with him. And each of these characters represent a different type of predator, different type of killer taken to this preserve. That's kind of interesting. I like that idea. A lot of the criticism comes down to Adrian Brody. And to me, that just feels like a comparison issue where because he's essentially playing the new Dutch, Adrian Brody does not properly compare to Arnold Schwarzenegger as a tough macho guy. But if you remove it from the fact that there's an obvious comparison there, like he obviously hit the gym before making the movie. He can act, and I think the missing piece is that the piece that doesn't work great is he overcooks the voice. He's doing a little bit too much Christian Bale Batman voice, like forcing it a little bit too much. But like otherwise, like I've never really understood the full-blown hate that this movie gets, in particular towards Adrian Brody. It delivers Predator action with cool characters, and this is the stuff I want. It's safe. It is not top tier. I'm not even putting it in the second tier, but it is at the top of the Can I Dream category. This is a solid, good, safe Predator sequel. And we're back to the Alien movies with the Ridley Scott prequels, Prometheus. And this is a movie which has always disappointed me. It is gorgeous. It takes the franchise in new directions where instead of kind of being about this social class subtext commentary, it moves in the direction of overt philosophical questions about the existence of, or where did mankind come from, and can we meet our makers and our gods and things like that. But where it goes with all of that, I do not enjoy the lore of the xenomorphs being this convoluted and complex. It's the classic prequel problem of it's answering questions I wasn't asking with answers that I do not find satisfying. Like, I didn't watch the original Alien, see the space jockey, and need a whole movie elaborating on their whole culture and how it ties in, what is that theory, panspermia or whatever it is, where aliens planted human life on the earth. Like, I don't need any of that. And I don't think that any of its answers that it provides about these philosophical questions are satisfying at all. It's just like, oh, okay. You threw a question out there and you just messed around with it of like, what if you went to go meet our maker to see why he loves us and it turns out he hates us? Like, right. Ridley Scott's an atheist. We know that. Like, what are we doing here? Like, what is this game we're playing? I don't even understand the life process of the xenomorphs. The life cycle was very clean and simple. You could follow it. Here, there's like the black goo, the worms, the mutants, the squid chest burster thing. We got alien bodybuilding. There's so many things going on that you can't follow it. And so like, it just feels like a jumbled, convoluted mess to me. Game over, man. Then Prometheus got a sequel, Alien Covenant, and this is a movie which feels like they had kind of a fairly straightforward, generic Alien movie sitting on the shelf. And Ridley Scott was like, but I want to do more of my Prometheus stuff. I got to answer the stuff answered at the end of the Quest movie. And so they just took generic Alien survival movie and mashed Prometheus sequel into it. And when it's standalone alien movie survival film, I think it's effective enough. I mean, too many characters are just stupid. Both in Prometheus and this movie, they're pretending to be like smart movies, but they're with the dumbest characters imaginable, where people are like, let's go to this alien planet without a helmet on. Hey, let's put my face over this hole of this dangerous thing. Both of these movies are just packed with that stuff. But Ridley Scott knows how to build tension. And so when things start going bad. There's just this escalation of chaos, and you feel the tension growing. And then David shows up, and we veer into Prometheus sequel, and all the fun kind of disappears, and it just kind of gets weird.
I'll do the fingering. Go on.
Wow, that was weird.
And even as a sequel to Prometheus, I felt like they found like the least satisfying follow-up to what was teased at the end of that movie. They just showed up and killed all the aliens off screen. And then they tell it in the least interesting way. A pair of flashbacks. Like, this is not super, if you were really interested in telling that story, why would you follow it up like this? So just very unsatisfying. And then it ends with more kind of alien stuff that's, what I hoped there would be more of in this film. I go back and forth between Can I Dream, Game Over, Man. There's enough sci-fi horror thriller stuff in here that I do enjoy, that I could go Can I Dream, but also overall, it's not a movie I go back to because it's just so bogged down by being a Prometheus follow-up that I think I have to go Game Over, Man. That'll bring us to The Predator. I'll cut right to the chase on this one. This is a bad movie. It goes in the one ugly MFer category, but a fun bad movie, so it's at the front end of the bottom category. Also, because I'm like a discerning, wise person, when this movie came out, it was right as my youngest was born, Karis. So I left my wife and my newborn baby at the hospital so I could go watch this delightful film. And that memory, that reality will be true for the rest of Karis's life. I left her to go watch this movie, and it disappointed me. It did not deliver what I was hoping for with Shane Black, subversive classic action director that actually was on the set of Predator, writing pages, acting in the film. And then somehow he delivered this film. Now, it had a nightmare of a production where they reshot the entire back half of the film. And when you watch this movie, it's so obvious that huge chunks of the movie are missing and things were redone. The lore, what they do with it, with these old uber predators, is baffling. It's bizarre. The storytelling is clunky as can be. The logic makes absolutely no sense. But it is a lively bad film. The loonies are fun to spend time with, played with a number of actors that I enjoy watching on screen. There's at least enough action sequences in here that are pretty cool, pretty enjoyable, even though there was even more that they cut out of the film. Like there was a car chase with predators at Area 51 with predators teaming up with the loonies or something like that, and they cut that out of the film. So I would love to see what this original version was. I don't think it would be very good, but I'm just curious what this thing was. As is, we're left with a monstrosity of a film that, is superficially kind of fun. That'll bring us into the 20s with Prey, and it seems like after over 30 years, they finally figured out how to do something fresh and new with these characters. I'm putting this one in the stick around category. This is just a great idea for how to continue the Predator mythos, lore, and franchise, which is to say the Predators are kind of doing this, rite of passage to prove your worth, battling these different people. You just take the Predators and you put them in different time periods, different cultures, battling different warriors to prove themselves, and it makes each of them kind of fresh and new, while at the same time not just rehashing what came before. So in the case of this one, we're having this Native American tribe battling up against the Predator. And so you get the thrills, edge of your seat, but the actual nature, the way that the Predator's being battled, it's different. The technology, both for the Predator as well as those people battling him, it's totally different. It still kind of relies on the fact that she doesn't win because she can just out brute strength, obviously can't out technology the Predator, but through a series of using her wits, cleverness, and because of the actions of other people, it creates vulnerabilities that kind of create that the vulnerability, that opportunity for her to strike. It's like all this stuff that kind of made the first one work, except done totally different in this film. This is what I've been waiting for. This is a stick around. And finally, Alien Romulus, the new film in the franchise. And it seems like they finally started to crack the code here in the 20s. I'm putting this one in the stick around as well. I think I like Prey just a little bit more because it does bring more to the table. It puts it in a very different context while still delivering the experience. In the case of Alien Romulus, the thing that it does so well is that it is like a great cover band of the first two Alien films, where it goes back to that retro future analog aesthetic. It uses the sounds that were used before, practical sets. It's a fantastic Alien experience. More of what I loved about those first two films, kind of merging them together. But it is like that cover band kind of vibe to it. And so I think Prey inches it out for me because it doesn't just feel like a cover of the original one. But all that said, like, Fede Alvarez does a great job of creating this kind of isolated horror that uses the environment so well, that introduces all the ways that humans would be vulnerable in these contexts at the beginning of the film. And as you go throughout the film, they step into all of these places, violate the rules previously established using temperature, sound, xenomorph biology, gravity, all the different things to put you on the edge of your seat, knowing the danger in front of them and just crafting great sequences. That's what I thought this movie did so well while putting me back in that world. So another stick around. After all these years, it feels like finally they're figuring out how to bring these franchises back. So now that we have our completed tier ranking, we go back to our original question: which franchise is better? To decide the winner for each movie in the perfect organism category, they would get 1 point, stick around 2 points. Following down to one ugly MFer would be worth 5 points. Doing so, the Alien franchise had 29 total points. The Predator franchise had 22 total points. The Alien franchise has 9 movies, so 29 divided by 9 equals 3.22. There are 7 movies in the Predator franchise. 22 divided by 7. It needs a number lower than 3.22 to win. Final answer for Predator: it's basically pi. 3.14. Predator is triumphant. Alien put up a good fight with 2 movies in the perfect category, but because they had 3 movies in that bad category, that game over category, it just pulled things down. Now the big question, had I put Alien Covenant in the Can I Dream category, does that 1 point make all the difference to change things? Actually, I just did the math and it does. If I had put Alien Covenant in the Can I Dream, it would have come out at 3.11 and the Xenomorphs would have won. This is literally down to 1 point making all the difference between which franchise wins here. I put Alien Covenant in Game Over last night. I gotta stick with what I did last night, but as for today, the Predator franchise has won. You can share your tier ranking or make your own tier ranking using that link down below in the description. If you take a screenshot of it, share it on your Instagram stories over on Twitter, I will share some of your rankings. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Letterboxd now. I'm on all the different things. Thank you so much for watching. Watch Cody's video. Keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.